In Australia, we have 55 million bank accounts reported to the regulators. It's reported quarterly. And last time I looked at it might have been 2 quarters ago, but let's say 55 million. We have 25 million people, 18 million adults of legal age to have a bank account. So that means the average Australian has 3 bank accounts. So there's an 85% market share amongst the big 4. It's an oligopoly. So that means that if you look around this room, each one of you would have 3 bank accounts. And it's more than likely that they'd be with different financial institutions, not just one. And some of you will only have one institution. So we're already seeing in the last 10 years that trend. And so I would say that people might look at us as a new bank and they might see that we offer the best way to use Apple Pay, because the big banks in Australia, there's 4 of them and only one of them has Apple Pay. So they might say, well, I want to use Apple Pay, I'm going to go with this new digital bank because they do that. Or we're the only bank in Australia that predicts your forward spend and then presents that to you so that you can forecast without doing any work and without opening spreadsheets. So maybe someone out there would say, hey, I want that feature. But we don't do home loans yet. We don't do insurance yet. We don't do share trading yet. And we don't do term deposits yet. So I can imagine, and I see it every day, that we have a lot of customers that use us for all of their spending, but they don't get their salary paid into our bank, or they have a mortgage with another bank. So I think that's just a trend that I just wanted to mention, that I think open banking enables that type of future, rather than necessarily, like killing the incumbents. And the last thing I wanted to say before we go out to questions, or however you want, whatever the format is just to have a think about these big banks that are scared. We've worked with a lot of them, and I used to work at SAP, so I've implemented core banking systems across the world, and including in Australia at all these big banks. And the classic innovator's dilemma is the best advice for them right now, which is if they don't actually innovate and disrupt themselves, someone like me will come along and disrupt them. So the best way that they can embrace this sort of new future is not to worry about margins and return on equity and net interest and all this. Forget about all that crap. Actually focus on disrupting themselves and maybe looking at these different ways of thinking about living, and then seeing whether a bank could offer a service to a human, a customer, a person, and then if they enable that, they will be here in 100 years. If they don't enable that, they'll disappear. So I think that disrupting themselves is as important as worrying about the competition.